How did you first get into Melee? Where did it all begin for you?
Let's see. So getting into Melee, I actually was a fan of Smash Brothers since '64.
Okay.
Prior to the game releasing, I never quite liked playing conventional fighters. Soul Calibur was actually the first ever fighting game that got me into competitive fighting games. But prior to
Okay.
Soul Calibur's release, I enjoyed Super Smash Bros. In 1999, and even before the release, like I said before, I was on the IGN boards, wishing that one day there would be a fighting game that I felt was actually um let's see, what's the word, just like intuitive. I felt like a lot of the
Good.
controls were really hard, for they weren't as accessible. Yeah, an accessible
Right.
fighting game for newcomers, and Smash Brothers was that for me. Like if I tilted in whichever direction, I could like attack in that direction, like
Right.
when you think of like down tilts and smashes, well, tilts and smashes, right, they all make sense for the most part.
Mhm.
And um the moment the game got released, I remember I was so addicted to it. I didn't like playing with items. Immediately out the gate, I actually stopped playing with items with my
Wow.
friends.
Yeah.
Captain Falcon, Mario, and Star Fox were my favorite characters. Moving on to Melee, I remember in 2001 when the game dropped, I got super excited to hop in a car with my friend to Toys R Us, and we immediately went to the Kings Plaza Mall in Brooklyn, New York, to get a copy of Melee, and it was super duper dope. Like the moment I got the game, I picked Sheik, and I was just forward smashing on Termina Bay, and dude, I thought the move just had a sick sound effect, and it was like doom doom every time.
Yeah,
you
it's like a double
connected.
hit too. They never had double hit moves up until that point as well. Like Melee kind of introduced the. I mean, like it comes out as one, but it just
Mhm.
it takes the two hits. But yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Continue.
that's like super cool, right? And
Yeah.
now, as far as like competitive Smash Brothers is concerned, I remembered getting into competitive Smash around late 2004, right after getting blown out when I played at my first Soul Calibur tournament. So
Okay.
when I got into Soul Calibur competitively, prior to, I think it was like around 2003, I was playing the game on the GameCube, right?
Mhm.
The GameCube version, and I realized that the competitive scene for that game plays strictly on PlayStation 2. So, in order for me to enter tournaments, I had to relearn how to play the game on a PS2 controller.
True. True.
And I was like, all right, cool. I guess we'll just figure this out. And it was really hard. I didn't really
Mhm.
feel like the controls, like going over from GameCube to PS2 was difficult for me. And why? Because of the fact that um, there's an analog stick, right? When
Right.
you play on the. By the way, this is not pre-recorded. Anyway, so like,
For anybody who's currently in the chat, yeah, we can interact with you, and we
yeah.
might have a Q&A depending on how things are going and how long I take your time here, but I'm open to it as well.
All right, let's keep going.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So like, I'm playing Soul Calibur, and going from analog stick to the PS2 D-pad was actually kind of difficult for me. I was like, wow, sliding my fingers across the D-pad buttons on the PS2 controller, it kind of hurt a little bit. It took a while for me to get used to. In any event, once I did get used to it and I entered the tournament, I kind of got washed. It was tough. Decided, you know what, let me check out the general discussion forums for Soul Calibur, and I came across MLG footage for Melee, and I was like, what? Melee has a competitive scene, and I
Right.
remembered playing it as much anymore and was more focused on Soul Calibur.
Okay.
But the moment I saw that, I was like, wait, these guys are moving really fast. What are all these crazy moves? Fox's reflector is an attack. And
Right.
yeah, the moment I saw that, I was like, all right, time to get knee deep into this. And I entered my first ever tournament at on February 2005. It was called DA's Gauntlet. Sadly, there's so many threads
Mhm.
of a lot of us old school players entering tournaments with results from way back when that got lost. Because like a lot
I
of
can
the data,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the data on Smash boards got lost back then, and because of that, it's hard. Like we didn't properly archive a lot of the results. We just had threads, right, with results like for Melee and even for like Brawl when I used to compete. Like I reached the point of actually getting to top 10 in the power rankings for my region. I was really proud of that too.
Wow.
I wanted to work my darndest to get there, and yeah, the goal was to actually want to become a pro player. I always wanted to be one of the best, but like I think the moment we lost well, we didn't even. I feel like you didn't even ask me that question. But basically, the moment we lost
go as long as you want, man. Wherever you want to take it. Yeah.
The moment we lost our land center called Web2 Zone in New York City around 2008,
Okay.
that's when a lot of us just slowed down in New York City when it came to competitive Smash. And the reason for this is the venue called Web2 Zone was in a central location, right? It was in a really nice, safe part of Manhattan.
Okay.
I think it was Lower East Side or something like that. And like all the trains met up there. We weren't too far from Union Square, you know. It was just such a perfect spot. They had all the food spots. St. Mark's was so close by. Me and all the homies, after the tournament was done, we'd go to like Ray's Pizza. We'd get pizza. We'd goof, we'd just goof off, and sometimes even go over to a friend's house who'd be near the venue to play at a Smash Fest. Once that venue was gone, like less Smashers appeared in that general area, and we had to go to upstate New York, New Jersey, Long Island, just like a whole bunch of different areas, maybe the other 5 boroughs where the neighborhoods start to get a little sus, because it's like, some of these neighborhoods, they weren't quite like gentrified yet. They were more low income neighborhoods. And because of that, like people have to survive. So they sometimes, do desperate things in order to survive in the streets. But yeah, it was hard. Like I wanted to find a new venue, and everybody was like, "Dang, we can't we can't go to Manhattan anymore. So where the heck do we go?" And people just started slowly like just having private fests at their own place, or they'd have tournaments in other areas, like the areas that I mentioned. But not everybody wanted to go to these areas because you'd have to spend extra money in order to go out to upstate New York or New Jersey or Long Island, and sometimes you'd even have to get housing because these tournaments back then weren't properly scheduled. TOs would enter tournaments sometimes, and this would lead to things lasting long. Kataro, sorry, didn't want to fire shots, but
just completely confused the organization, everything, I guess, right? And this is you as a competitor as well, because I guess we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but you didn't start in casting. You were a competitor, and then I think at one point you moved over to Brawl in 2008, and this was when you were really connected with Brawl, was when you were looking for the venue. I think, because I was watching some of your interviews with Zero as well, where you kind of had some of these stories.
Yep. I played Brawl competitively, and around like 2009, that's when I decided, all right, I'm gonna actually take a role. Like try to take up the mantle and become like a leader in New York City, because I realized that a lot of people knew me. I had a lot of friends on Facebook and just a lot of friends in general that were in the Smash Brothers scene. So I said, why not use that to promote an event in New York City that a lot of people can actually attend in a safer neighborhood, And that's when I hosted at this venue called the Gamepad in Brooklyn, New York, where I had the series TNA, Trips and Air Dodges. Calm down. And also that was for Brawl. I was a hater. Like you could tell I was a hater because I quit playing, and then I just called the Brawl tournament Trips and Air Dodges.
You lead into it as a joke though, right? It's like
it was a joke. A joke. But in any event, and as far as Melee is concerned, we just called it I think it used to be it was called the Dip series. Yeah, and
I know you have a story about that as well. The dip.
Oh, geez,
sorry. Yeah. This would be a whole other. I don't know how far I want to take you into the hole here. Okay. All right.
But so I'd say around 2009, that's when I decided to finally start TOing, and I think up until 2012 or 13, I switched venues because Gamepad shut down, which super sucked. It was in Brooklyn, New York, but it was in a nice neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. So we moved over to the Next Level Arcade. Now, Chinatown Fair, which was a very popular arcade for the FGC in New York City, shut down, and then they reopened it, but it's not the same. So like the owner, Henry Sen, he moved over to Next Level. He moved over to Brooklyn to hold the Next Level, to basically have this arcade called the Next Level. Next Level Arcade. There you go. Next Level New York City. In any event, Spooky would host there. And when I noticed Spooky was hosting there, he'd have like a whole bunch of fighting games there. I was like, you know what? Hey, Henry Sen, I don't know. We lost Gamepad, and I used to share a venue with Spooky before. Would you be open to hosting Smash events here? And he was like, yeah, totally. So I rebranded the Dip series to Sudden Death because I didn't want to have to keep bringing up a story of my father and my little younger brother fighting over nonsense. Anyway, but yeah, yeah. So like, Sudden Death was the name of the Melee series, and all throughout, while I was like hosting all these events, Prague would bring his laptop, and we would use like TO Tournament Organizer to run the brackets, and while we would do that, he would also record footage from the event, and we just talk over it. Never thought it was anything special, but as he just kept posting up videos, and other people kept posting up videos from us casting together at events, they're like, "Whoa, these guys, we really like them together." And it's funny because I wouldn't say me and Prague were like the closest friends in the beginning. We were just like acquainted Smash Brothers players. We respected each other. We were really cool with each other. But the more we started seeing each other at events, we definitely became close friends, and that shined through our chemistry as well, right? Whenever we casted together, it was just like, whoa, these guys, they work really well together. It's almost as if they're best friends in their entire life. Right. And yeah, dude, I have to say, he definitely was a big help because I didn't have a laptop at the time. I wasn't the richest kid. And thanks to him, we were able to run my event and also have commentary and recorded matches for these events. And yeah, so big shout outs to Prague because he didn't have to do that. He didn't get paid for it or anything. Just like you said before, this was like a volunteer work. We all love Smash Brothers, and we wanted to keep it alive, right? So through the community's blood, sweat, and tears, we did whatever we can to keep that just the passion alive.